I have a short intro too. All right.
It'll be fun. I'm just going to keep it
ready?
fun.
Are we ready? All right. I always crack myself up with these dumb openings. All right, ready? Here we go. I'm not even stoned. It's so stupid, right?
What's wrong with you?
You'll see.
Wow.
All right, ready? Lo, how a rose ere blooming from tender stem hath sprung. I'm Joey.
I'm Santa Claus.
I'm Kristen.
And this is Messing with the Master, a podcast where three lifelong Tori Amos fans reflect on the iconic singer-songwriter's catalog by thoughtfully and intentionally reorganizing each album into fresh playlists that explore Tori's musical legacy, as well as our own interconnected personal narratives and friendship, which began with a shared passion for Tori's music over 20 years ago. On today's very special holiday bonus episode, we're diving deep, wink, wink, plug, plug, you're welcome, T, on Tori's substantial holiday catalog, namely 2009's Midwinter Graces, somehow recorded during her Abnormally Attracted to Sin World Tour, in which Tori reimagined a number of carols and hymns, and Christmastide, Tori's 2020 EP of original tracks. There have also been many other Christmas and solstice extravaganza moments throughout Tori's career that may just creep up on our playlist. So join us as we show you how it's done and restore the springtime here. This is Messing with the Master, Holiday Edition. Hi guys.
Hello. Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year. Happy
Merry
Hanukkah.
Christmas.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Happy everything. Merry everything, everybody.
Happy Midwinter.
So glad to be back with you all.
Surprise, everybody. We're back. We're doing a special holiday bonus because we recently did a season 2 planning session where we dove deep, and we have some exciting things that we'll be sharing really soon. But during that session, we thought, you know what? The gift that we can give this year to our fans, is this beautiful holiday episode where we discuss Tori's holiday music.
That's right.
So here we are.
Our favorite redhead. We just like to, throw a little surprise out.
Kristen, can we get a little more of a visual?
I'm in a negligee.
A negligee.
I'm in a
Lovely. Where's that from? Is that from Fredericks of Hollywood or?
It's from Anthropology. Thank you very much.
Okay. Very nice. Is that an homage to Pink and Glitter?
Well, we'll save it for story time, perhaps.
Got it.
Wait, does this negligee have a story behind it? Is that why you're wearing it?
Do you know the Pink
I was
and Glitter
kidding,
story?
but oh my God.
We'll talk about it later.
You shared a very special Facebook status memory today that this is what? So 15 years ago, we went to the what was it? Was it NPR?
NPR Green Room.
NPR Green Room show that Tori was on, interviewed for, and then later that evening she played the Park Avenue Armory, which was the show that got released for the Artist Den, and we stood in the hallway of that crazy like historic space where she was performing. It was such a fun, strange day of Tori promotional stuff back then. It was great.
Yes.
Also, was it the day before, the day after that there was that very odd, she did a really interesting random promotion for this, a lot of it New York based, which was lucky for us. And I'm trying to remember, I can't remember where it was exactly. It was a very strange space, almost like in an office building, and Loudon Wainwright was there as well. Oh, you were there too?
Yeah, we didn't see each other.
She did Lady in Blue, she did Gold Dust. Mm-hmm. She was wearing that tropical dress. She was playing that super futuristic Bosendorfer that they gave her. It was like a silver Bosendorfer.
I remember the Ferrari one or whatever.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah. And so she allowed in Wainwright. Yeah, you were there with us. Yeah, you were. Where else would you be? Where else would you be? We just weren't there together, but Maddie was also there. But sort of a weird alternating. She would do a song, they would talk to her, she would leave, Loudon Wainwright would come on, and he would do a song, and they would talk to him, and he would leave, and then there was a jam at the end with Tori playing the piano and him. It was such a strange thing, but it was really cool because she did Lady in Blue, she did Gold Dust, and we were so excited, whoa, we can't believe, because we stay asking for Gold Dust, and she just did it randomly, and it was it was great. And she wore that
little drummer boy outfit,
toy soldier,
she looks so cute.
so strange. The whole experience. It was just a wild few days of like, yeah, we were very lucky. And it was very special, listener, because Kristen was headed back. She was leaving New York and going back to Texas. She had to get to Texas. And Texas. This was sort of our last, that was our last sort of Tori time together in that way before you moved. And we got all this like special, sexy, intimate promo Tori stuff over a few days.
I was very stressed
because
I knew how much like good Tori promo time we had, right? We just like kind of, the green room thing happened and we were like front row, and then we like ran over to the armory and like we were all like raining and drizzly, and then we just like, do we even eat all day? I don't know. There
was a Starbucks right down from the green room, and we like got like big coffees and like sandwiches or something, and that was really it.
Shit, I knew that. I mean, and we still do it, but not like we used to,
Well, but it's amazing that we still get to do it in this different way, but like the feeling is the same, It's like, yeah.
Now we have holding suites for ourselves during the day.
And now we
places to take naps and do our face masks. Hey, comes with age, right? When you're in your 40s, you got to take care of yourself.
The holding suite was a real like glow up for the tour life.
That was a real indulgence.
Yeah.
Never going back.
So I just, I think this is a little bit unorthodox of an episode because, we're sort of, this is not like messing with Midwinter Graces necessarily. We're sort of thinking about Tori's approach to Christmas and seasonal music all together. But, just an interesting tidbit, this came out in 2009. It was really exciting to get 2 records in 1 year. Love that shit, That was, amazing. But the lore, if I'm mistaken, I did zero research for it, but
great,
you all can fill
it in.
Quality. Well, usually we're quite researched, but my memory of it is that she had been asked while she was still at Atlantic to do a Christmas record like in the 90s, and she didn't want to do one. And then when she reconnected with the his name's escaping me, but the guy who used to be at Atlantic, who was now at Universal, who struck up the deal with her to use Universal as like the distributor that started in 2009, he was there and he was like, all right, but you finally got to give me that Christmas album. And so she did it. And I can't help but like my mind goes wild thinking about what a Tori Christmas album would have been like in like 1997, right? Like what would she have done then, right? Did you ever think about that?
No, I don't. I think so. I feel like, so let me just also clarify.
Just me, I guess.
We're all raw dogging it without notes tonight too, because I thought this is the holiday party. Let's be loose. Let's be improvisational. Let's like give a little bit of a different vibe for this bonus episode. But no, I could have never imagined her doing any holiday album.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those right place, right time moments. I think it was the right time for her to do this. Her kid was still quite like young and having like now being older and not so excited about Christmas and holiday season myself. I can see that excitement now in like your children, and that makes me excited more than I would be for the holiday itself. And I don't give a crap about it, but seeing the kids' excitement over it, when I lived with Kristen, was really fun. And seeing them get their presents is really fun. So I think for Tori to have Tash at sort of like that age where she's still like experiencing the magic and wonder of the season and then putting her on the record, I think was a big part of it. I think having her kid at that moment, at that age, also played a part into what she was doing artistically for a holiday interpretation.
It was such a great surprise too to hear Tash's little voice. That was the first time on Holly, Ivy, and Rose. It was such a surprise, right? We didn't know that she was going to be on it, and to suddenly have that little...
And I was just re-listening to it on the way home from work tonight, doing my final check of my playlist, and it fits perfectly. When I interviewed Tori in 2011, and I sort of like sniffed around at nepotism and the darker side of putting your kid on the record, she reminded me that she usually knows what she's doing as a producer, and her goal as a producer for that holiday sound was to incorporate her family, which was a really good instinct, and it made sense. All of it made sense for the marketing of the record, for the construction of the record.
Yeah.
And, holiday is, for a lot of people, a very family-filled time. And to have your family on the record and having that record of doing that is really special. That's a really special thing to capture and to share with your family who isn't on the record. Although, isn't one of her nephews the half-naked
He's the angel.
Angel?
Yeah, he's a model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I met him. I think there was a different nephew at the thing in New York.
I think there's
with
3.
Kelsey. Yeah. They're all very good looking and very well mannered.
Of course.
Yes.
FYI.
Right.
You bring up a good
family excellence.
You bring up a good point, Maddie. Because I was thinking that, to me, this was sort of it felt like the beginning of Tori really thinking about her parents, her mother especially, their mortality, and being like, all right, I'm going to make like a record that my parents could listen to, and I'm going to, and like, so it was that, and then she started working on The Light Princess, which I know was many reasons why she did that, but she has said that she also wanted to do it for her mother. She wanted her mother to see and hear her do a musical, because musicals meant a lot to them, and it was some of the early music that Tori was exposed to by her mother, and that she learned to play music from, and so it feels like there's just a really wholesome quality to it that I think is kind of sweet, and kind of like, it's sort of subversive in its way, because that's why I asked the question about, like, imagine what she would have done in like 97 versus what she did in 2009. Like, I think that there was sort of a respect for the original material that she was reinterpreting, and even the original songs are very they have a lot of sentiment to them. They're not there's always a little bit of flair of, like, I don't want to say the blasphemous, but like the pushing back on the narratives, right? Like Star of Wonder is like that. We'll get into it, obviously, but a song like Star of Wonder, where she is sort of taking it back to its like forgotten or whitewashed roots, right? Or Christian washed roots, and so there's that push there, but it's delicate and it's not like offensive, and I think that that's the difference between a Tori in 2009 making it versus what she might have done in 97.
So I was going to bring up the word respect actually, a minute ago too, and I think that what I was going to bring it up in the context of is, I think that Tori always usually understands the assignment, right? When it comes to what she's putting out. And with this record, that's why I was saying it was the right place, right time thing, because I don't think she would have put out a holiday record or a Christmas record or even anything, traditional at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think she innately has a sense of respect for Christmas and for those traditions and for the people who really take it seriously, right? So I couldn't see her doing like a punk rock Christmas or like, something wild or disrespectful toward the holiday. I think she does hold a certain amount of reverence for Christmas and for all of the other traditions that she incorporates into the sound of this record, which I think is really great. And I think that's probably partly because she wanted to please her parents. She wanted to toe the line with Doug Morris, who I think is who you were mentioning or who you were hinting at.
Yeah.
Because Doug said to her, and I'm not going to do the impression
like Tori. You have to do
Tori.
the accent. Sorry.
I know I don't do impressions. Tori does Tori, when she slipped into that impression, I have to tell you, I didn't realize she had done a Doug Morris impression prior to the Hollywood Reporter Roundtable. When she did it at the Roundtable, I thought it was the first time. So it really took me by surprise when she did an impression, because I don't really think of Tori as, doing celebrity impressions, but she's really good at it. Anyway, so Doug Morris is Jewish, and he talked to Tori in depth about how he loved Christmas music, but he just couldn't get into all the Jesus stuff. So she was also kind of holding space for people who, like that general Christmas time vibe that don't want to get into the religious part of it.
Doug and I had this conversation that was very direct, and he said to me, if you're going to do this, will you just get Tori, will you get rid of all this King of Israel business? Because I'm Jewish and I really love these songs, but this whole religious thing is making me nuts. And so I started to think, well, then there's my mom, who is a minister's wife, and the whole King of Israel business is the center of her life. So you're kind of going, Mom, Doug, Mom, Doug, Mom, Doug, and then there's Dad.
So I think that she's holding a lot of respect for the season, and that shows through on Christmastide. It shows through on Midwinter Graces.
Yeah.
I had a chance to speak with her when she was in New York for the Abnormally Attracted to Sin tour backstage, actually, right before the show. It was the only time I've ever gone to see her before she takes the stage. And she was discussing the Christmas album in detail, and she was really excited about it and telling us about the sounds that she was using and the instruments that she was using and the references that she was using. And I remember I brought it up to her, and she kind of laughed, like, you know, not like she wasn't taking it seriously, but kind of like a laugh, like, I can't believe I'm doing this, you know, like she was in on the joke, because it seems like such a no-brainer that Tori would do it, but I don't think that she probably wanted to until then.
Also, like 100 million degrees outside, like sweating asses off, like playing in these hot, sweaty, sticky, you know, shows with a band. To me, it always makes me appreciate how much of an artist and, like, you know, a hard worker she is. Because I don't know that I could have come correct with like Winter's Carol in July or whenever. Ooh, what's that?
My husband made me cupcakes.
Yeah, so, and I don't know about you guys, but I was very surprised to get Christmastide as well. You know, that's not something I expected to have happen.
I don't know. I felt owed Christmastide. I felt entitled to Christmastide. Yeah, we were all going through a really hard time, and we were all sort of like, when's Tori going to weigh in? When's Tori going to, like, help us out and give us some relief from this pandemic?
That's not what
At least
I thought
I
it was
was
going to be, though. I didn't
was.
think it was going to be Christmas.
Well, that was
I'm
just a
not
little
Christmas
treat, though.
girl. You know, I struggle. That's why I dress like a whore for the Christmas episode.
She's the Christmas whore.
The ghost of Christmas whores past.
I told you, the hooker with a harp of gold.
That's me.
I hear all that. This is also kind of that, like, period where she was being super committed to the tasks that were sort of assigned her. So we have this, and then it's Light Princess is happening simultaneously, and then she does Night of Hunters right after. And so she was really in a mode where she was taking these challenges that all sort of, accepting these challenges that all sort of spoke to things that she maybe didn't want to mess with or do or approach. And so there's a lot of, like, bravery and balls that she's displaying during this period. And it's, you know, we don't think of it that way often as, like, a fan base, but, like, the 2009 to, you know, 2011 period, beyond that, really, because the Light Princess didn't come out till 2013 or 14, or 2015 maybe, but that period of time, she was just really, like, working so hard, and so committed, and maybe the output felt, you know, sort of more like restrained and wholesome or something with those projects. But the level of, like, commitment and exhaustion is so commendable. And so we overlook how much work she did over those years, like how much, like, you know, like, just it's yeah, like, I'm always kind of awed by that period of time.
I wonder if it's somehow either consciously or unconsciously tied to the fact that this is the time where she truly went independent, right? And she could choose these challenging projects that she probably either had complications working on with the labels or maybe couldn't work on with the labels in certain respects. So, you know, I don't know that she probably could have finished The Light Princess as, you know, a label artist or contract artist. So maybe the shift you're seeing is tied to her, you know, being independent.
Well, also, these are all sort of commissioned things too, right? So I think that these offers weren't even possible then, right? Like, she was asked to do Midwinter Graces. She was asked to do The Light Princess commissioned by the National Theater, right? She was asked to do Night of Hunters. So there's that thread, that through line of her being asked to do things, which I think is a really interesting change from, like, being sort of demanded, like, you must do this, we need this from you. And even though we are demanding it from you, we're not necessarily going to care about it or take care of it once it's out into the world. We just want it from you because you have to give it to us, right? And that was sort of the vibe.
Right, because you signed the contract.
Right, right. So, yeah, I mean, this is the sort of, even though we're noteless at the moment, this is all part of a piece of the conceptual tensions that we've been discussing about Tori and her career this whole time. So that like arc, that period of time, that this era, if you will, is really sort of indicative of all of those pieces of the journey, I think. And also, Tori, I think, is just so effortlessly, or rather, she's so good at like presenting in a very accessible way things that she knows a lot about. Like she's very well read and sage, and just like religion like the back of her hand, mythology like the back of her hand, right? Like, so she has this like wealth of musical and historical and religious and mythological and narrative like knowledge inside of her that she then is able to give back to us in this way. And Midwinter Graces is a good example of that, because it feels like, yeah, I recognize that, but then there's a ton of stuff that I'm like, I've never heard this before. I don't know where this originates from, right? So it's an interesting project in that respect.
So absolutely. I think, when you listen to Midwinter Graces, not so much Christmastide, but when you hear Midwinter Graces, I think you can sort of hear, and you said it much more eloquently than I am about to, but you hear all the time she put in the church, all of the Christmases she spent going to church. Her dad was a minister and ran a church. That's where they spent their holidays. And what do? You sing Christmas songs when you're in church. You sing hymns. So I think you hear all of those years.
I forgot that she's a minister's daughter. Thanks for the reminder.
God.
Did you not know that? I was...
Yeah.
I was actually just screaming to my husband earlier, who was teasing me. I was like, you remember my grandfather was a Pentecostal minister. My grandfather was a minister. And he was like, oh, really? I'd never heard that before.
Just like somebody else.
Yep, real spicy towards the minister's daughters tonight, I see. That's so blasphemous. I think it might be also worth pointing out, I know we're definitely, some of us will have this on our list when we mess, but Tori did, cover some Christmas songs prior to her full-length album and her EP, famously Little Drummer Boy, famously Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas from the Judy Garland film Meet Me in St. Louis, which is just classic and iconic. And really now, that was 1998 as a Choir Girl Hotel B-side, which is so odd and so weird. But now when we see sort of like how the mythology of Judy Garland has touched Tori's life, and how her mom was a big Judy Garland fan, and how Tori continues to use Judy Garland as one of the tropes, or one of the archetypes that she's, written about at length. Right. And I'm thinking of things like Oysters or Not the Red Baron, but she also gives a little bit of a Judy vibe when she's performing. I think now listening to Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, in retrospect with all of that knowledge, is even more special, because we know now a lot more about how much Judy Garland has meant to Tori.
Yeah, and I think we also know that during Tori's journey to becoming a mother and her miscarriages, that she also had suffered one around Christmas time. And so I think that there's that longing and yearning that she conveys in her cover of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. That's really, it just exists in a space of like, there's hope there's optimism, but there's also like disorientation. Christmas in Space, which I believe was supposed to go with that, and not Purple People. That's right. Yeah. But that's sort of floating in space, sort of trying to hold on to something, is just conveyed so perfectly with just that like one little like sound effect against just this gorgeous cover, and so unexpected. Like that, back to that era of like, wait a second, this is like 3 months before the album even comes out, and we have the studio version of Cooling, and we have Steely Dan's Do It Again cover, and we have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. It's like, what is going on? Like,
wild.
I need to add that, like, while I know that Pink and Glitter and Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas couldn't be any more different, I love that they are opposite, parental experiences, like going from that loss and that ache to that celebrating the birth of the baby girl.
Yeah.
It again is tied to family. It's really interesting, right? How family becomes more important, but especially important on these holiday songs, and the meaning is even deeper as we get into them.
Yeah.
I would have never connected those two.
I think you also gesture towards like the grief of loss and the pain of her journey towards motherhood. I think that it makes so much sense that the songs that are about finally being a mother, from Gold Dust to Ribbons Undone to Pink and Glitter, there's a joy and a celebration that might come across as a little bit corny sometimes, but it's so genuine. And when we think about the contrast, and like I didn't think about Pink and Glitter in that way until you just said that, and it's like, yeah, it is this like complete inversion of like the grief and the darkness of those other songs. And she seems, when she's singing about Tash, it's all light all the time. And I think that, I think that's a beautiful choice that she makes. And she's like, and again, it's like a subversiveness even within that, right? Like we expect or like want something, different from her. But it's one of the reasons why I love Rose Dover so much when we're talking about Geraldines, because Rose Dover has sort of a fantasy, like seasonal pagan kind of vibe to it, and is like strangely constructed and is like both whimsical and dark, but also ultimately about imagination and creativity and joy and growth and a desire to see Her Little Pony continue to grow. And so when I think about it in this way now, it's like, yeah, it makes complete sense that those songs about motherhood and about her daughter are going to be imbued with light, and she takes care to be as to just sort of like infuse them with love, and that's what also makes that like little first appearance of Tash's voice on Holly, Ivy and Rose like so extra. I just remember the first time that I heard it being surprised and also just being so like warmed by it.
She sounds so little.
I know.
I bet you anything. I don't want to conjecture too much, but I bet you when Tori was able to play that for her mom and her dad, I bet that was a really great moment, right? Like,
yeah.
A moment that maybe, a few years before that, we wouldn't have maybe imagined that moment happening. So I think it's good for that reason. And I have to ask you guys, well, two things. First, coincidentally, I saw Tori cover both Little Drummer Boy and Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas in the same show in 2017 in Los Angeles.
Wild.
Which exactly, it was during, the midsection, the fake Muse network. We were used to getting, cool
Weird
covers, weird stuff, and yeah. I got, 2 holiday covers, which was really a surprise for me. But have your opinions of, like, I guess, Midwinter Graces and Tori's holiday music changed since you've had kids? Or holiday music in general?
I think, I still think that Holly, Ivy, and Rose is one of the best uses of Tash generally. I love it all. And honestly, maybe the second best to me is Addition of Light, which again is really interesting because they're at the current moment bookends. I think it makes sense now looking back on it that if she wanted to do Night of Hunters, even if she had an inkling, if you're going to do this, we got to like put some work in, Yeah. So kind of practicing in this lower stakes way, maybe. And again, like a family project, very much a family project. But I actually think it's really cool and speaks to like, just like how deep their love and bond is. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I wouldn't let any of my kids on any of my albums. But I think Holly is just incredible. Holly, Ivy, Rose. I don't know. She sounds so little and she sounds so mature at the same time. And it sounds just like this young Myra Ellen and this Tori talking together. It's perfection.
I think that Tori recognized quite accurately that Tash had a very specific quality to her voice. She has this little like rasp and sort of like bluesy quality that's just sort of inherent in her voice and the way she performs, and sounds. And I think that Tori heard that, and I think that she thinks about the inclusion of Tash's voice, especially like now as she's older, and Tori is sort of, her voice is changing and aging, and Tash can sort of fill a space. I think Tori thinks about her voice as like another instrument or something, as opposed to like a duet or another vocal. it's giving a quality that she sort of needs to tell the story of that song. And I think she recognized that with Holly, Ivy, and Rose, and then she continued to include her in that way. Whereas like her niece, Kelsey, has more of a traditional musical theater kind of incredible, technically perfect voice, right? And a technique.
Yeah. And they all have a place, you know. But today, when I was listening to Christmastide, the song today, I was just thinking about how in all of these years, like they were able to like cultivate Tori 2.0. I mean, it's totally obviously different person, different life, all that. But she was able to clone this like range and this layering and this effect and this richness, which is super cool. And I don't know if there's other artists doing that now, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, and the way that she uses Tash on Christmastide, like I remember there was even some debate until we got confirmation if that was Tori or Tash, because we couldn't tell on Christmastide like at first. And I think that's probably what Tori wants. She wants to like sort of blend the two, right? She wants to like not. She doesn't necessarily want you to like isolate that vocal and think, oh, that's Tash, right? Like I think that she wants a little bit of a. Sometimes she wants it to be a very clear distinction, and sometimes I think she wants them to be sort of in harmony in a way that you have to like sort of like stop and ask yourself if that's what you're hearing. And that was true for Ribbons Undone with Kelsey. It was like, wait, is that Tori or not? Because she sounded like, you know, Tori singing Baltimore or something when she's young, right? Like
she sounded just like early Tori.
Sounded just like her. I love that Tori cares about lineage and the family and sharing the experience in a way that sort of includes everybody, and the fact that she's influenced by them. And just to answer your question, Maddie, a little bit, like Elio doesn't seem to like really care about like Christmas yet. Like he does and he doesn't. Like he doesn't quite like understand. Like he's got his taking a photo with Santa and wants presents and is excited for that, and but sort of doesn't hear holiday music as like, or recognize it as different from just anything that he's listening to yet. And I'll be interested to see when that shift sort of occurs, right? Where they know the difference between like, oh, this is like special, this is seasonal, this is like for this time.
I know what
versus,
it'll be.
Well,
it'll be when he discovers Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You" cartoon and accompanying song, which is still my 9.5-year-old son's favorite Christmas movie. We were watching some bullshit the other day, and he was like, man, I think it's almost time for Mariah.
He tried to pretend like he was too cool for Mariah, because I was excited and I was like, I want to watch it. And he was like, no, I'm not really into that anymore. So he went through like a week-long period where he denied Mimi, and
it's hilarious.
It was so sad for me as like the gay uncle. I wanted nothing more than to watch Mariah Carey's Christmas with Luca, but he was like, no.
Your sweet little boy, and then like Ellis, all you want to do is play Barbies, and she won't fucking do it,
These
and
kids,
like,
they're very withholding.
They're very withholding. And Ellis is a full-blown Swiftie, so there's no Christmas music. It's only Reputation. She's so goth, so she's all into that.
When is T Swift going to release her
don't know.
Solstice record?
Don't want to hear it. Don't like holiday music, as you know.
Speaking of withholding, I think we've been withholding our playlists, and we should get to it.
This is just fun. It's the holiday party.
It is fun.
It is fun.
Just a little sexy bonus, right? A little posse bonus.
Who's going to go first tonight in the spirit of Christmas giving?
Ooh, we don't have
maybe the girl in the negligee with the Santa hat on.
I can play too. Yes.
That's
I almost put Lady in Blue on here, but I didn't.
Ooh.
Because you heard it at that holiday show?
Maybe. There might be a song or two here that it came from a time where I saw it at a holiday show. Tori reads winter, She's a winter. And I think she said it in one of those, was that the interviews during coronavirus time, or she was over Zoom. I feel like she said her favorite season is winter. And it's like, of course, we think of her as a lizard lady. So not exactly, but she can conjure a winter scene like no one.
True.
Fair.
I'm with you.
So, with that, let's get to it. So, I've got a Spotify playlist, and then I have an additional, just a little few YouTubes that I couldn't get in the Spotify, you know? And I went really fun. Just my favorite Christmas song available from childhood that Tori does is Good King Wenceslas, which I love. No? First song. You got to get to it.
What a way to kick off the holiday playlist. Austere.
It's my favorite Christmas-ish kind of like traditional song that makes me think of like childhood Christmas. And then from there, I went to Christmastide, which I think is a very easy way to get into Christmas. I'm imagining is like me putting it on at my house, and there are people at my house who, you know, I don't want to just be like the Tori Amos girl, but I am just the Tori Amos girl. So I'm going to like put this playlist on, and they may or may not figure it out. I feel like Christmastide is just like a really like good song you can have it on. From there, I go to our sweet little gem, Holly, Ivy, and Rose, because I don't want to wait for that little baby's voice. She's just so cute, and I love the story. I love the family theme like we talked about. But I wanted to kind of keep a lot of the older songs, like the Midwinter Graces, kind of older Christmassy songs together. And then I went to Emmanuel, which you know is my real favorite Midwinter Graces song, I think. Maybe there's another one.
I love that too.
It's just so fucking
It seems like every Midwinter Graces song is your favorite, but go on.
Well, I think Holly, Ivy, and Rose is like, whoa, I don't know, my edible drink just kicked in, so I'm not going to be able to explain it. But they're different. And then A Silent Night with You. Again, I'm thinking back to if I'm doing a holiday cookie party and I'm just like wanting people to mill around, right? I'm going really quiet, really chill. And then we get to the Tori shit. And that's where we go to Snow Angel, which I think is just like a haunting, beautiful. It reminds me of like, you know, like when you're in Brooklyn or whatever at night and it's like 4:00 and it's dark already, but it's like that first really big snow of the season and it's all quiet. And it's just those first few notes, it just feels like you're in that like moment of, it's not a whiteout, but it's like everything is quiet for a minute in New York City. That is what that song reminds me of. Gives me all the feels.
Love that.
So then I went to Garlands, which I did see at a holiday show once, Christmas-ish show, 2011. Yeah.
What time of year?
Christmas. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Tori
Consult
said
Tori set, please.
Christmas 2011, if I'm not mistaken, saw, yes, Dallas, December 22nd, 2011. I saw Garlands.
Incredible.
Song number 10. So now I think of it very much as like that. And it was the last show of the tour, and that just like that Tori quiet, calm moment until you see her again next.
Well,
Okay.
and she did some Midwinter Graces on that show, right? You got like Holly, Ivy, and Rose or Our New Year or something, right?
It was Holly, Ivy, and Rose, yes, which was very cool. I was rewatching that today as well, and I wanted to like turn it up a notch, as our friend says, and went to What Child Noel because it's a secret banger. Only Tori could make What Child Noel is.
You almost made me choke on my spit. Shit.
Why is it so good though?
That intro is like, it really hits hard.
It's fucking good. And then I kind of wanted to take it back into, my creepy Christmas vibes, back down to that kind of white out vibe of snow. So we go snowblind. We pull in a little of our other friends.
Wow.
No, it's okay. I hope it's not controversial. I
No,
can't
it's
see your
not.
faces, so I don't know. And from there, I go to Candle Coventry Carol because, the family vocal layering is incredible. Love it all. No notes. I love Kelsey's work throughout this album generally. And then one of the highlights from Midwinter Graces for me is Winter's Carol. And I probably could have put it sooner, but I wanted to save it for like a really good moment, which I think comes before Circle of Seasons, because that's a new kind of favorite in the past few years, obviously. And then we go to Holly, which, to be honest, it's not my favorite Christmas or my favorite Tori holiday song. But I used it here because it's going to come before Pink and Glitter. And so I'm going to do Holly, which is kind of like a reference to Tash, Holly, Ivy, and Rose, to Pink and Glitter, Winter to Carrie. So I'm kind of thinking of like family, aging, the seasons of life. And I do have a really funny story. I think it's funny to tell about Pink and Glitter, which I wasn't going to tell, but now that my weed drink kicked in, I may as well tell it.
Let's go.
I think I've probably told it on the show before, but it's like really embarrassing. I was at the mall probably like a week before Christmas in 2017. So it was like right after that tour had ended. And I was just like walking around doing some Christmas shopping. And I heard Pink and Glitter. It was like an outdoor mall, like one of those like modern outdoor malls, you know? It's not like you can really hear music and each store kind of has something different. But it was really cold and I heard Pink and Glitter. And in my head, I literally was like, I'm pregnant and it's a girl. It was the thing I thought. Joey, I knew your ass was going to laugh. And it's one of those things where it's like, am I just looking for like, it's like the meme with the lady, the conspiracy theory. It's like you want like Tori symbols and signs so bad. But it's like, I'm pregnant and it's a girl, which was crazy because I then took a pregnancy test on Christmas Day, and I was, in fact, pregnant, and it was super cool. It's just, like, very cozy, and it felt very special to, like, have this gift of that pregnancy. So now when I think of Pink and Glitter, I always think back to that moment where I was so sure that I was pregnant, not knowing at all that I would be, and that I had this, like, beautiful little baby girl. So it made me have, like, my own little relationship with Pink and Glitter. After Pink and Glitter is Winter. I've chosen Winter Gold Dust version. I felt like I needed a little flair for the dramatic, and I think this may be the only, maybe one other time where I put a Gold Dust version of something on. So Winter Gold Dust, and then we go to Carrie, which I know that I cut from Night of Hunters.
Now it has a home.
Yes, and now it has a home. And to me, again, back to the theme of family. I told you how much it reminded me of my Grammy. I still like think of it as like a family song. It could be part of that family arc, and I think it fits perfectly here. And I also saw it at that Dallas show, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, she closed the show with Carrie.
Wow.
So, there we go.
It all makes sense now.
It all makes sense. And then I went to Darkest Hour, which it feels like the bridge between Midwinter Graces and Light Princess. So, and then just playing on the theme of darkness, I did Jeanette Isabella because she's bringing her torches, you know. And then I kind of like, I started thinking again like about like connections to like home and family. And so I thought Beulah Land to me is very much like, you know, like a Southern kind of Christmassy. It doesn't like live in Christmas. It doesn't live in a season to me. But it's just like something I imagine myself like sitting at my grandparents' house with like my shoes off outside. It's kind of humid, but it's December, Texas kind of Christmas thing, you know? That song makes me think of that time, like being off of school as a kid in like the deep, humid South. Then I went thinking about family. I started thinking about Reindeer King, which I just think is like an obvious choice for a Tori holiday playlist. I mean, it really could have a place on like a billion of the playlists, really. It's such a song that like spans eras, styles, decades for her, but it felt like a really good kind of in that family section of the holiday list. After Reindeer King, I had to put some more ass in it, and I went to Star of Wonder, which when this first came out, I really did not want to like Star of Wonder, but again, secret banger, love it.
Not even secret, that song is a straight up banger.
And so then my last two songs are Our New Year and Pretty Good Year, because I have to be fun and literal. And I did think what I love about Our New Year doesn't really end on a positive note for me. But Pretty Good Year, I do feel like ends with, and I did Pretty Good Year live from a piano, or sorry, Tales of a Librarian. That song ends with hope to me, and I feel like that's what you want after all the holiday hangover, you know. So yeah, that's my list. 23 songs. I did cut some from Midwinter Graces.
Sure.
Did you notice what they were?
Harps of Gold.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice. I like that. I'm impressed and surprised by how much you pulled from other records but I like that it felt songs that felt sort of seasonal. I feel like you could have also Bells for Her and Black Dove would probably fit very nicely on your playlist as well. if you're going in that
I
direction.
I also thought of, but did not, spoiler, include Reindeer King or Garlands, but I see where you were going with the themes of those records and with, literal reindeer. And what do you decorate the tree with? Garlands, right?
Yeah, of course. I think like when we're talking about like literal playlists, it's hard. Like it doesn't have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas on here for Tori, so I can't put that on my Spotify playlist. And I can put it on my YouTube playlist, which I did.
I see.
And I did put together on the YouTube playlist, I just put a few favorite videos together, but mostly of like the live performances, like that live performance from the green room of Star of Wonder. It was just so fun to be there, but really powerful. And I think like when I went in to that show, that experience, I was feeling like, oh, this is going to be kind of cheesy. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm in it. I'm buying it. It's good. She came out and she just looked so powerful in her very like Strange Little Girls-esque, like a masculine cut, like suit, like boxy shoulders, just all around good times.
Can I pause us for 1 second? I need to get some water.
Yas. Is he talking to us? I can't hear it. I'm too high for this.
You're spiraling.
Like, I started thinking my voice sounds weird. I started thinking, this is what I sound like every day? This is what people listen to?
You should lay off that gas station THC drink.
Yeah, how strong is that? Jesus.
Well, I had,
She's hitting it hard.
I had a glass or two of wine also, which I know. Ooh, and I doubled my Zoloft.
Happy holidays.
Wait, did you double it just like for fun yourself, or your doctor gave you double it?
I decided to take myself up, and I will be telling her tomorrow when I talk to
Wait,
her.
how many milligrams?
I'm on 200 now of the Zoloft.
Okay.
I was feeling too much, in all the bad ways.
Okay.
It's the holidays.
Yeah.
It's not good. And it's like, is it perimenopause, or is it the holidays, or is it having children, and is it like late stage capitalism? Like, what is it?
I think it's all the above.
Yeah. There's a lot happening in the world right now.
So my playlist goes God, Professional Widow, Marries This, and I'm only kidding. No.
I didn't like that joke. It was upsetting. It was like when you you think that she's playing one song and she's playing another song, and you get really confused and everybody's clapping. You don't know where you are.
Yeah, got it.
You mean like the entire Diving Deep album?
The entire time, every song I thought was oysters, and it never was. Or honey. Remember, I thought everything was honey.
I can understand oysters though, because Ash was always like shaking some seashells, and you're like, huh? Okay, so I didn't stray too far from the structure of thinking about the two Christmas records together, though there's maybe a surprise in there. So we begin with Star of Wonder, a banger, and
You would.
I had considered maybe using the Gold Dust version because I actually like it quite a bit. I think the ending is really good, but I just need those drums.
Yeah.
I just need those drums. It's so good, and I love, like, that's the thing that I'm talking about with Tori, sort of going back, like the Middle Eastern vibe that she's very like insistent on in her version of it is really excellent. So we start with Star of Wonder. We Three Kings are coming again. And then after Star of Wonder, we go into Jeanette Isabella. Because obviously I'm grouping the more religious stories together. And we go from there to Candle, Coventry Carol. And then we go to Emmanuel. And then from Emmanuel, we go right into Harps of Gold, which part of it is like a nostalgia thing for me, because growing up like in the Catholic Church, and Emmanuel and
Harps.
Obviously Harps of Gold was not, she did some, she did some Torification of that, but the Gloria, in Excelsis Deo, like that, and Emmanuel sort of sung in like little bursts during church services. And even though I'm not a religious person, I have very fond memories. Like I can be transported back to being in church on like during Christmas time, and smelling the burning of the incense and the poinsettias that are like around, and just sort of the lights, and there's a real beauty to that tradition. My friend Brooke likes to say, like, forget Christianity, but like the story of Jesus, like what a great story, like a little baby is there to save the world, right? It's just lovely, and that's true. Anyway, so we go from Harps of Gold, which I'm sorry, I really stand that song. I like a funky, like, cringe that like bounces its way back to interesting Tori.
Not funky.
And I like I don't know, there's something about it that I just really like. It, like the way she, like her voice on the Gloria chorus, there's sort of like an ethereal atmospheric to it, like something about the sound, like synthesized trumpet or something, or like there's something just like sort of like,
So like a shimmery song.
Yeah, it feels shimmery. It's like it's cheesy as all hell, but I don't know. I also love to think, like, what were they thinking, like, with the way this song was produced? And I really have to admire that. So Harps of Gold goes into the closing song of that section, which is Good King Wenceslas, which I also love. I love it so much. I think it's so beautiful. I love that performance.
So tender.
It's so tender. It's so sweet. It's just, again, like she's pointing towards sort of the charitable, beautiful, like stories about humanity. When Tori's critical of the church, that's what she's critical of. Like she always says, there's not a lot of, she said in the 90s a lot, there's not a lot of love thy neighbor going on in Christianity, and how tragic that 20-something years later from when she said that, it's more true than ever. And so when we have sort of that charitable, true, teaching of Christ moment, I feel like she really is very, she stands 10 toes down in that when she's representing that for us, which I love. So we go from there into Christmastide. And from Christmastide, we go into Holly, Ivy, and Rose, because I like the pairing of her and Tash and Christmastide and singing about Mary, and then going back to Baby Tash on Holly, Ivy, and Rose. And from Holly, Ivy, and Rose, we go to Circle of Seasons. So I sort of see this section as being that sort of family, mother-daughter piece. But from Circle of Seasons, we go to Our New Year, because Circle of Seasons and Our New Year share that mourning, that grief for Mary and Michael. And from Our New Year, we go into Holly, which I love. I love Holly. I think Holly, like, I put it on my Ocean to Ocean playlist.
I know, you always sing it.
Or did we all do that maybe?
No.
Well, I did. And Circle of Seasons as well. Because they sort of transcend holiday. They feel like just proper Tori songs to me.
Production quality also fits in sort of with the vibe of Native Invader as well.
Yeah.
Just the instrumentation.
I could see that, yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I just love Holly. I think it's I like the music. I love the bridge. The wheel of the year keeps turning. I just love it. So I go from Holly into Snow Angel, which I also just love it so much. I agree with everything that you said about it. You described it perfectly. I never thought of it as sort of an urban, like thinking about like the city in snow, but now that you say that, it's like, yeah, absolutely, that quiet. It also brings me back to Bard, our alma mater, like walking down the path after it snows and there's nobody else around, and Snow Angel really like evokes that calm and that quiet and that solitude, because even if you're not alone in snow, something about the snow makes you feel like you're by yourself. Like it cocoons you or something, right? And she really captures that. And then we go to Winter's Carol, which I just think is just a brilliant, like, it was so exciting to get this Light Princess song. And then I was always surprised that she would include a Light Princess song, but then when we realized that the song didn't actually end up in that version in the Light Princess, it made sense to me that she would want to preserve that song. And also just John's upright bass is so gorgeous in it, and the layered vocals and the dynamics and the way she's sort of having the conversation. It's just a beautiful song. It's just really feels kind of epic in a way that is kind of surprising on this record. Like it feels like a real treat. Like the way Star of Wonder goes kind of hard and feels like it could be like a sister song to Pancake in a weird way or something, right? Or a bit of Strong Black Vine. Like, it's got edge to it in the same way it has edge to it. Winter's Carol has like a real epic quality to it that, Our New Year kind of has it too, but I think Winter's Carol is more traditional Tori, like, genius, right? So we go from Winter's Carol and we end the proper record with Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas because I felt like I needed to have it on there. I thought about starting with it, but I think technically ending there works. But I say technically because in my fantasy, we then have about 20 seconds of silence and then a hidden track after it is Famous Blue Raincoat, which I have decided is a Tori song. It's the end of December. 4 a.m, end of December. New York is cold, but I like where I'm living. There's music on Clinton Street all through the evening.
Yes.
And now that I live downtown in Manhattan, and I've always adored that song, but there's something that feels like I've always imagined when I hear her, especially, not so much the Leonard Cohen original version, but when I hear Tori, I always kind of think of somebody up in the middle of the night, sitting like in their apartment in the city, and there are like lights reflecting, like Christmas lights around the window and coming in from outside, and sort of that like very specific New York City Christmas feeling that I'm experiencing right now and seeing outside my window and seeing when I walk by different buildings. And Famous Blue Raincoat is really evocative of that for me.
And that can be a very lonely feeling, right?
Yeah.
I
Totally.
get that. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's that whole, cliche of like, New York City can be a place where people can feel really alone despite there being so many people around, right? Because sometimes all those people and all those things happening kind of remind you of like what is not happening for you or not what you're not, sort of experiencing. So yeah, like I've always had that sort of like, I imagine her version of the protagonist in that song just like bathed in like, red and green lights, kind of like almost like Matthew a little bit, like, but being sort of in the dark, like in the middle of the night, writing this letter, and it's
sad and pretty like me too.
Yes, precisely. So that's how I end. So I end with that. So I don't include Pick and Glitter, Silent Night with You, Better Angels. Although I do really like the ending of Better Angels where she extends that dream they exist. I actually really like that, and I think the piano is really, really good in that. But it's not a total win for me. Sorry.
Can
What
we
else did
go
I-
back to talk
Yeah.
about Famous Blue Raincoat? Because I feel like disappointed in myself that in 2024 that I like take that song for granted now. Like, we heard it live enough times, I guess, or I listened to it enough on bootlegs that I don't like, if it comes up, I'll skip it. I know Matthew doesn't allow a skip typically, sorry, but I'll skip it because it's one of those things that like lives rent free in my head. So I don't have to listen to hear it. But damn, like I need to take a moment and have a moment with Famous Blue Raincoat. It's been a while.
You know what? I had a faraway idea of that being a song that could be included on this mix for all of the reasons you mentioned. It makes perfect sense to me. I think it's a really good way to close it. And I like the specificity of how you used it, especially tying it to New York and where you live. And we've all lived in New York. And I think can really relate to that. And I immediately thought personally of a Christmas where I couldn't go home to family. I was kind of trapped in New York. I had to work. And that loneliness and that sort of like melancholy around the holidays, reminding us that holidays are not joyous for everybody. We should make sure to, say that, if you're by yourself for Christmas or you're in a situation that you don't want to be in Christmas, we can empathize with you. We've all been there. So don't feel too alone. But Famous Blue Raincoat, I've heard that fucking song so much live. I just like, I can't hear it again. But
Does it make you mad that like that's how you feel about a song that I feel you once loved so much?
I've never really loved it. I've really appreciated it. I heard it at my first show in I think 1996. Wow. And I've gotten it at like every other show since. Maybe I'm an ingrate.
I think you're.
It was a highlight of that Sugarland show, vocally and emotionally. She did a great job with it. I was happy to hear it then.
It was good when we were second row.
Yeah, and
was
also
that recently.
2022. Sugarland.
You were there.
You were there.
Disassociated.
And I oddly have not gotten it very much, despite seeing Tori so many times. And I think we in 2017 she sang it in New York. And it was kind of like, oh, why doesn't she always do this in New York? Like, it's kind of surprising, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. Matthew, close this out, please.
All right, I'm gonna do it. So surprisingly enough, I'm gonna just say you guys took probably more chances with your playlist than I did. I kind of kept it traditional. I'm a traditional girl, you know,
I like that.
minister's grandson, keeping it real traditional.
Love that.
So I'm starting out my playlist with Snow Angel, and I think let's also we do. And you know, when I'm, you know, even imagining holidays are coming, or I'm starting to even think about holidays, what do you think about first? You think about the snow. When the snow starts, that's officially holiday season. And I am including the Midwinter Graces version, but I think it's interesting to point out that she did do a recorded version with the orchestra for Gold Dust of Snow Angel as well, which is it's pretty good as well, but I like the original.
It has great layered vocals at the end of it.
Yeah. So from Snow Angel, I'm going to go to Winter, and I too put the Gold Dust version of Winter.
Good.
I think it fits, just the instrumentation works, the theme works, and since it's snowing and it's winter, you go to Winter's Carol. Yeah. I think for this playlist, it really works, and I want to, you know, put in elements of Gold Dust where I can, where it makes sense. So from Winter, we go to Winter's Carol, which Joey, I think you summed it up. You know, we have to have that sort of like literalness, right? Winter's Carol. We've seen it on a million set lists before. I'm surprised she doesn't play it like that. But Joey said it best. It's an epic song. It could stand alone with some of her most solid tracks. I mean, it's really just musically incredible. And I don't think we've really shouted out John Philip Chanel once during this podcast.
He's all over Midwinter Graces.
This is really, you know, a testament. The quality of Midwinter Graces is as much, I think, a testament to his skill as a musician and, you know, arranger and visionary, and
totally.
We love him. So
we love you, JPS.
So from Winter's Carol, I went into Christmastide because I liked the percussiveness of Winter's Carol, kind of going into that holiday sort of vibe percussion of Christmastide. And I thought they bumped up really nicely together. And, you know, I love the harmonies. I think, you know, you guys covered it beautifully, and I have no more notes on it, but for this playlist it was a good place to put it. And from there I'll go into Emmanuel, which again, no notes on Emmanuel other than it's really like a deeply felt and heartbreaking version of the song, really melancholy again, but the percussion in it and the atmosphere with the orchestration is really just beautifully somber, and really reflects that more, you know, melancholy vibe of the season that a lot of people feel. So Maddie, I really like that one.
Thank you for saying that, because I always forget to mention that the juxtaposition of like the somber tone and the singing of the word rejoice.
Yeah.
That's like a really
sad, such a sad delivery. And even when the song gets a little bit more, you know, when it attempts sort of a more joyous or buoyant moment toward the end with the percussion and the bells, it's really sad. it's a little bit dark, but I think it's just really a standout for me on the entire album from Midwinter Graces. And then from there, I went into Candle Coventry Carol, because I thought those two paired really nicely together atmospherically, and, you know, the singing is just really intriguing for me, and the percussion and the sort of like, I don't know what the percussion is technically called, but there is like a little bit of like a rumba sort of feeling to it. You know, there's something very classic about it that's not necessarily related to a holiday, but something, you know, very musically interesting. And then from Candle Coventry, I go into Holly, again, because I like the way that those kinds of like percussion and the movements within the songs are hitting next to each other. I think they complement each other really nicely. And again, you said Holly isn't necessarily like a standalone Christmas song or holiday song, but I liked it here just for its energy. And from Holly, I went into Holly, Ivy, and Rose. Do you see what I did there? Again, having those bump up against each other, I think were really, for me, was really fun. So, and then we get to the banger, as Kristen called it, What Child Noel? After Holly, Ivy, and Rose. It was hard to place it because this is, I think, the most traditionally Christmas song on the whole record for me. And the instrumentation is very, I think, very formal and very, very structured. And, you can maybe see a little bit more improvisation or a little bit more riffing on other tracks. But on that one, I think it's a really sort of like straight up Christmas, right? From What Child chose to put on Little Drummer Boy. From Little Drummer Boy, we go to Good King Wenceslas, into Jeanette Isabella, into Star of Wonder, and I chose the Midwinter Graces version from Star of Wonder. So one of the things I want to just back up a little bit. The beginning is like winter and snow and cold. And then from there at the Christmastide, it's more again about family. And then the section starting with Candle is, I think, a little bit more explicitly about family and kids, with Holly, Ivy, and Rose, What Child, Little Drummer Boy, The Good King, Jeanette Isabella. And then Star of Wonder is a little bit of a turning point into a more modern sound, a less traditional sound, and a less maybe Christian sound. We have Star of Wonder, Midwinter Graces, and then I put Better Angels in next to it because this is the section where we're thinking less about Christmas and maybe more about the New Year or some other night that's important to you romantically. So Better Angels into Our New Year, into A Silent Night with You, into the closer, Pink and Glitter, which is like the big band finale, ending on a joyous note, ending with happiness, ending with, all of your treasures with you on Christmas and, being happy, celebrating and having the silent night with your boo.
You're such a romantic.
All is calm, all is bright. I mean, what can I say?
Softy.
I wouldn't say that. Why? But why?
Ew.
I know I'm uncomfortable.
Your brother.
You're wearing a negligee talking about boners.
I'm wearing a negligee. My brother's talking about fucking ew.
Anyway, I wanted to end. You guys ended on like pretty sad notes for your Christmas mixes, and
That's right.
I'm not a Christmas person. Christmas, historically makes me depressed, and I've not really loved Christmas most of my life. But this year, I feel a little bit different. I feel less depressed about it, and I'm married, which is super exciting. And we have our own traditions. We don't have kids, but maybe soon we'll have a dog. And why not end on a nice romantic up note? This year. I feel like I deserve it.
Well, also, you do deserve it. Just like, yeah. I also want to say that the thing that though I didn't include Pink and Glitter, it is important to note that because she is still Tori Amos, there is that subversive, mildly blasphemous bit that she can't help because she says, little boys get an honorable mention from me this year. We're going to shower the world in pink and glitter. It's like, okay, Messiah, let's step aside. We are talking about, and I think that's, again goes back to like the really grand way she honors her child. And I think that is something that I feel very deeply as somebody who, long journey to have our son, and he sort of is an immaculate conception in a lot of ways, thanks to science and, a lot of money and prayer and all those things. But that's something that I feel like Tori has always deeply respected and honored Tash in her existence, and this is one way to do that in that song too. And I think it's easy to forget that and not sort of hear it, but it's there in that song. And so when you go back to what you were asking earlier, Matt, about like what's changed for us when we have children, I think it's that like Tori actually helps me to frame it that way, that we were all raised by, our parents are all very different from each other, obviously, generationally, maybe a little bit different from each other culturally. But I think that we can say that there was definitely a vibe long ago that like your children were your property, Yeah. And I think that parenting, then it swung a bit to like, everybody gets a trophy and a prize, and now we're sort of like in a middle ground where I think our generation is maybe thinking about respecting our children as people who are going to grow up to be independent individuals, and we don't want to taint the way they think about us or how they were raised. And like that's why so many of us have to go to therapy to like reckon with how we were raised or not raised right by parents. And I think that I really I've always felt that deep respect from Tori for her daughter in a way that I think is captured in those songs.
I was going to say, I think the three of us were probably raised by Tori.
Probably. Yeah, in some ways, for sure.
Yeah, she definitely contributed.
Influential, yes.
Yeah.
All right, so this was super fun, but before we sign off, I wonder, I mean, we're not going to give any explicit peeks at season 2, but everyone should know we've done planning, we're taking it seriously, we're excited about it.
Down.
I mean, let's not like
For me,
outsize the
my part-
expectation.
My part, no, shit's going down.
Okay, so you heard it here first. Kristen Keys says shit is going down for season 2. Great. So look forward to our season 2 coming soon. We're not going to give you a specific date. We're going to be a little loosey-goosey with it, but plans are happening and things are exciting. I think for me, when we did our big planning session, I became even more excited about it because we really firmed up some ideas that we didn't know if they would work. And I think we found a way to make everything work and be really cool and innovative, but also delivering the content that you need.
Yeah, I think it's going to be everything that our tens of listeners love about the podcast.
You know who you are.
Just kidding. There are hundreds of you, but it'll give you everything that you know and love about the podcast, but we're also going to turn it up a notch as
Ooh.
as you
That
always
was
say.
my number one song that wasn't
Mine too.
Taylor Swift song. What's wrong with us? Joey,
It was
what
my
your
number one song, period.
I don't have Spotify, so I don't rap.
Do you think
And
it was
My
Joey's
Apple
above
Music.
Spotify.
Well, I
He's
vote with my dollar, okay?
Blah, blah, blah. Here we go.
But everybody so quickly forgot about that. Like we were like, anyway. This is why the country's in the condition that it's in. Okay, that's all I'm
That's
gonna say.
right. Need to go fund me
but
for.
but Apple Music does have like a version of it, and it's all the songs that Elio insisted that I play in the car all year. So like the number one song was like Good Mood by Adam Levine from the Paw Patrol movie. Number 2 was It's Not Right But It's Okay, Thunder Plus Mix by Whitney Houston, which he also loves.
That's good.
Who doesn't?
So yeah, so it's all, and then a bunch of ABBA songs and Pink Pony Club, because that's what he was listening to all year.
Bye, because Luca's in his boy band phase. So.
Oh, I love that for him. It's a great idea. I need to start playing some boy band music for Elio. That is smart.
NSYNC is the shit.
Okay.
I think Luca could be in a boy band, couldn't he? I'm always trying to push your kids into show business. I think show business is awful, and I'm a veteran of show
That
business.
reminds me, I saw Gypsy on Broadway the other week.
Oh my God.
Speaking of stage moms.
Was it unbelievable? Was she great? Was Audra great?
She was great. I thought she was going to give birth on stage. We were in like, she was like really like, she's not pregnant. I mean, just like the intensity of Rose's turn. We had like second row center, so we were like right there watching it. I don't think I love the show as much as other people do. Like I was like maybe a little bit bored sometimes, but she was great. She was great. I wish I could go back in time and see the Laura Benanti, Patti LuPone version. That's the one that I wish that I'd seen. Yeah.
Did you see Sunset Boulevard?
We did.
Multiple times. We're actually, Kristen, we're actually going.
You saw it together?
Yeah.
No one told me this. I'm so mad. This ruins my Christmas.
Alex and I saw it together, and then we bought tickets for our anniversary on Wednesday. And then when Kristen was in town, she was looking for a show to see, and she got tickets on StubHub. And then we found tickets in the same row for like a huge discount. Like, I guess we're gonna go again. So we all went together. We had a fancy meal, and then we got went to go see it.
You guys were enjoying the conservative, Trump-loving talents of Nicole Scherzinger as Norma Desmond.
She was really fucking good.
She was really good. I mean, Alex and I were debating like, do we sell our tickets or like who cares? Like at this point,
you think she knew that was a MAGA hat? I don't think
knew.
She did.
I think she knew it was a MAGA hat, but I also think that I believe her statement that it doesn't reflect how she voted, because I think she probably voted for RFK Jr. That's my feeling.
That's probably spot on.
So I also do believe she's very Jesus-y. She's got that sort of Filipino woman.
That's why I thought maybe, because it was like something, make America Jesus. I don't know. Either way, I was like, maybe she really didn't know. Because Russell Brand also was an idiot. So.
No, I think that she knew, but didn't think that the association would necessarily... People would think like, oh, you're MAGA. You know what I mean? Like she thought people would just understand that it was about Jesus, right? I don't know.
I would just be on here, but I just want to point out that out of the 3 people pictured on your screen right now, one of them has a half-sleeve Norma Desmond tattoo and 2 of them do not. But one of them has not seen this play.
That's fucked up, Matt.
I agree. That's why my Christmas is ruined.
Well, I think it's going to last for a while, whether she's in there or not, because the production is so interesting.
Yeah.
And
Okay, so before we go, everyone's favorite holiday Tori moments. Do you have a favorite holiday moment from your playlist? Kristen, Joey, do you have one?
well, so I it's not from my playlist. I didn't include it, but I love that version of Little Drummer Boy that I think you're talking about, that K-Rock version from like the 90s, where she goes off and like does that like Tori like yeah, like yelling. It's like it's like, what are you doing, girl? Like, why are you shouting? Little Drummer Boy. But I love it. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
It's just like
I know
goes
exactly
off
what
and
you're
it's like-
talking about.
Cute.
And so even though I didn't include it, I'm like,
She's
that's
crunk.
That's what I always think about when I think about Tori and Holiday. I think about that Little Drummer Boy performance. I just didn't include it because I wanted to stay, keep it at songs that were like officially released, just for my own sort of boundaries. But if I'd gone outside of that, I would have also included like a live version of River or something, because that also is just so
Looking for like, did we see it in Wallingford? We saw it somewhere in like 02, 03.
Camden, that amazing Camden show. We were next to her parents. She did River, she did Gold Dust, she did Black Swan with the band. It was a crazy show. It was
That
and
one was the one.
It was early in the tour too. It was like, whoa, this is how she's like starting out this tour. Yeah.
I think for me, probably top moment, at least one of the top holiday moments of Tori, is just the simple restore the springtime. Yeah, it's just
so pretty, and that icy synth behind her.
It's just so like gently delivered, lovingly delivered.
I love how that song has like a very long, quiet outro. Like it takes a while to end. For that song to end, right?
Yeah. Like ice melting, right? Like it just goes longer than you would think it would. So
restore the springtime here. Oh, I love it.
My moment, I have 2. I really love how gonzo the orchestration is for Star of Wonder. I just want so bombastic and so just like the way that they approached that song to me was just really, it blew my mind, and you can hear it in the strings. There's just a lot of energy there and it's wild. I mean, it's really like exciting to hear the instrumentation and the orchestration of Star of Wonder. But then the other one is in Snow Angel when she says, I'm not going to sing it, but when she goes up an octave sort of and says a shadow. You know what I mean?
I know.
I can't do it like she. I can't do it like she does it because she goes into some like real baby register, and it's really just like, it's really, to me, incredible. I love that moment.
I love it too. I also, I think when I wrote up for our Pop Matters Spotlight and I was writing about Midwinter Graces, I think that I noted that I felt like Snow Angel felt like it could have been like an Under the Pink B-side, and I think it's because there's that quality of that sort of icy atmosphere, the vocal delivery, the piano. It feels like a Sister Janet or a Black Swan or like a Honey. Like it's got that like same, feels like it exists in that same universe, and I wonder if that's actually a composition that she had written in the 90s, maybe around the time of Under the Pink, because it feels really like kindred to that. Yeah, I love it. I think it's so good. Yeah, well, guys, this has been great. Everybody, we hope you have a wonderful holiday and a peaceful, prosperous new year. And we look forward to being back with you all in very early 2025. Much, much more messing to do.
Yay.
I love you guys. This is so much fun.
Love you both. Talk to you soon. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Shower. the world. Shower